Well, hello, folks out there in YouTube land. Got a big show lined up for you. Let's get right on into it.
Omaha! Up!
Thanks, Peyton. Thanks, Carl. Appreciate y'all. All right, folks, we're going to have an update on the transfer portal. There's a lot going on with it and the Vols. We're also going to have a recruiting update. There's so much going on. It's really surprising this time of year, but with the transfer portal and NIL deals and recruiting, it's just every day's full of news. And I have crammed it all together into this one video today. And we're going to talk about Jalen Wright. We're going to talk about these 5 stars. We're going to talk about all this stuff. And at the end, we're going to talk about a 5-star wide receiver that I think we really need to get. And especially in this offense, it would be a home run. All right, first things first, let's talk about Jalen Wright. He has signed an NIL deal and looks like he's going to be squared away. And that was a concern, but I think Spire Sports took care of that for us. So our leading rusher is taken care of for 2023. And I think like we talked about yesterday, it was probably a similar situation to the Tyler Barron deal last year. Just, needed to have a little discussion with Spire Sports and all of that. So no worries there. Now, this first guy in the transfer portal who is actually visiting the Vols right now is Omar Norman. And he is a 6'3", 290, a defensive lineman out of Arizona State. And this guy would be a nice pickup for us. He's a former 4-star out of high school, and he would be a really nice depth piece for us. I think the Vols would really like to get him, and my understanding is they're going to try real hard, and it looks pretty good at this point. Now, given how Coach Banks and Coach Garner like to rotate those defensive linemen, a big guy like that would be a nice puzzle piece for us to fit in there because, you need about 10 guys on our defensive line. We have so many plays on defense that you've got to have those fresh dudes. And again, he is in the transfer portal. Now, this next guy is Cam Pringle, and this guy is a big offensive tackle. He is 6'7", 325 pounds, and he is a 5-star.
Enormous. It's gigantic. And they said it was big, but I didn't expect it to be big.
And he is out of South Carolina, and he's going to be a battle between us, Clemson, South Carolina, and a few others. And he attended the Florida game last year, and he said the atmosphere was incredible. He was just shocked at our crowd and how wild we get. And I think he enjoyed that a lot. But he does have us in his top 6, and we have a real good shot at this dude. Coming out of South Carolina, we used to get everybody we wanted out of South Carolina. Then Clemson had their rise, and they started taking everybody, even out of our own state. Well, I think those days are over. And I think we're going to start going in there and poaching the way they've been poaching us for years. And some people had talked about how he was leaning to South Carolina. He said he has not made any decisions whatsoever. He has not done any silent commit or anything like that. He said absolutely not. That is not the case. So I feel pretty good about this guy for the Vols. Now, this next guy is Jordan Burch, and he is a former 5-star. He is at South Carolina. He's 6'6", 275. And I think this guy would be an excellent edge rusher for us. He is in the transfer portal. And I'm going to tell you what, South Carolina is losing a bunch of really good players. Their number 1 tight end, their number 1 running back, and now a 5-star lineman. I mean, I don't get it. You would think Shane Beamer could hold on to those guys. I mean, he had a good year. I mean, he finished it off good, that's for sure. But it looks like there's a mass exodus there, and it really doesn't make sense. There's plenty of playing time for him. I guess it may have something to do with NIL if I had to guess. I don't think there's a lot of money there at Carolina, which makes no sense. I mean, there should be. But anyway, a lot of their good players are heading out. And while he has not lived up to that 5-star expectation, I think a coach like Rodney Garner could do something with him because, look, how well our defense has improved. Coach Banks has done a good job. Coach Garner has done a very good job. As a matter of fact, I put together some stats just to kind of give you a feel of where our defense is. I know everybody gets down on our defense because of that one horrible game at South Carolina. But overall, we've improved a lot. And let me just show you in a simple graph. So this is Vols defense as far as scoring. In 2021, we were at 29.1 points allowed per game, which was 90th in the country. This year, 2022, we dropped down to 22.7 points a game, to 36th in the country. So, I mean, that's a heck of an improvement. That's almost 7 points. That's basically a touchdown less scored against us from 21 to 22. And I think it's important to realize, the run defense has really improved. It says its run defense has been effective and ranks in the top 15 in yards per attempt. Its overall pass defense ranks near the bottom, 128 out of 131. And that's why it was super important to get those 3 cornerbacks. And if you've seen my video on the 3 cornerstones, that we're going to be building on. On top of that, we got 2 safeties, and I know they're still looking in the transfer portal as well. We also got some great edge rushers in Chandavian Bradley, Caleb Herring. We also got David Hobbs, etc. And don't forget about Joshua Josephs and James Pierce. Those guys are going to be harassing quarterbacks. So our pass defense is going to get better over time. It's just, look, they've had to play zone defense all year long because we just haven't had those cover people that can really stick to guys. So they've had to be a little bit more careful. But I think in the future we'll be able to do a little bit more man-to-man and not be stuck with the zone defense constantly. And as far as our offensive scoring, if you haven't seen this, last year we were really good, 39.3, 7th in the country, and this year 46.1, first. So I went ahead and did that chart anyway, just for the fun of it. And you know, you see the size of these guys. Cam Pringle at 325 pounds, 6'7", and then this Jordan Burch guy, 6'6", 275. And you're like, how can these guys be this big? And they're just out of high school or in high school. And I remember I was over at Gibbs Hall. My brother played on the golf team from like 80 through 83, I think it was, 79 through 83. And we were over there on a visit. And I was probably 16 at the time, something like that. I was about 6 foot tall, 140 pounds. Looked like a pencil walking down through there. And I remember this big dude came walking through, and it was Reggie White, Minister of Defense. And he walked by me, and I was like, did a wall just walk by? He was like 6'5", 300. And, you know, I was new to this. You know, I didn't live at Gibbs Hall at the time. And I had never seen anybody quite that big. I was like, you got to be kidding me. Now, when I lived at Gibbs Hall a few years later, I got kind of used to being the small guy. And by then I was like 6'2", and I was still short. Everybody over there was huge. The basketball players, football players, every one of them. But it's almost shocking how big these guys are at 18 years old. I mean, how can you be just 300 pounds? And a lot of them are in really good shape. So anyway, I guess that's just the size you got to be to play football these days. Now, lastly, we're going to talk about a 5-star that we really need to get long-term. And this is Ryan Wingo, 5-star wide receiver. And he was at the Florida game last year. And again, he absolutely loved it, said it was amazing. He is planning on another visit to see the Vols. He's very high on them. He said they're up at the very top. So I think we're either first or second on his list. Now, he didn't rank anybody, but I know we've got to be in the top 2 or 3. And he's planning on a January 14th visit. And this would be a fantastic pickup for 2024. If the Vols are going to wind up in the top 5 this year in recruiting, 2024 that is, we need some 5-stars. And Ryan Wingo could be one of those building blocks. Of course, we do have a 5-star in Eccles that's already committed, but another 5-star would be a fantastic way to really secure that big bump. So I know they're working hard on Cam Pringle and also Ryan Wingo, a couple of just big-time recruits. All right, folks, so there's still quite a bit going on. This is a big weekend. They've got some important people there, and they're working on getting a bunch more. So I just thought I'd do a quick transfer portal update and recruiting update. And if you like this content, be sure to hit that like button. Lets me know to continue to cover the Vols. And I know a lot of you watch my videos and you haven't subscribed. It's right here on my left. Super easy to do. Costs you nothing. Just boop, and you're done. And I've got a video right over here that YouTube thinks you'll like based on your viewing history. Check that one out. It's one of my more popular ones. And I hope you did like the content. We'll see you next time on Sports Talk J.